Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse with your hosts, Biggs, Grindberg, Chev. Our producer, Schultzy, is in the back somewhere tinkering around with something or other. I don't know what he's doing. He's digging around in drawers or something like that. This is the weekend warm-up. We're getting you ready for Week 11 and the slate of games that are coming. We've got stock up and stock down for your Dynasty enjoyment. We got starts and sits, and we're here. So settle in, grab a beverage, and let's talk turkey. That's the thing that people say, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what it means, except when I'm talking about turkey.
We're about 2 weeks away from 2 weeks from today, right? From Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and you already had yours.
Maths. Yep, it does.
Yeah. I had my Thanksgiving already, but I'm okay celebrating in a second time. So somebody's taking the day off work and eating turkey here up in Canada.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
What's better than one Thanksgiving?
2.
3.
Yeah. So maybe we do like an impromptu Pulse afternoon matinee or something like that. We'll have to talk about how Thanksgiving looks for us here on our shows and stuff like that. So
I just remembered a joke that I was going to tell you like a couple weeks ago. What's the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean?
A chickpeas. I don't know.
I've never had a garbanzo on me.
There you go, folks.
All right.
Like I said, welcome to the Dynasty Pulse, everybody. What are we doing, Mike?
Well, we're doing some injury updates. We're going to talk about maybe a firing or two, or just one, and maybe some Dak Prescott news, and then we'll get into this stock up, stock down. So, kind of get into this injury bug. It's starting to clear up a bit here for fantasy managers. Nico Collins is likely to be active in Week 11, and this is going to be good for fantasy manager. Yeah, we're hoping. It was a late inactive last week, so one more week of rest. What do you know, Biggs? What's your thoughts on Nico, and how much do we need him back?
We need him back bad. He was one of those guys that I had so many shares of. He just totally sunk me when he went out, and it's hard to grab somebody off the waiver wire in week 7, week 8. It's pretty much been picked through. I didn't, like who had Marquez Valdez-Scantling in their lineup last week? Come on. So yeah, it's going to be very nice and refreshing to have him back in the lineups.
100%. Now, Dalton Kincaid appears to have a contusion, so looking like it's a game time decision this week, and people are kind of going to the waiver wire looking at Dawson Knox as a potential option against a Chiefs team who is very vulnerable against opposing tight ends. Chev, what's your situation looking like for the Bills this week against the Chiefs?
Super excited for Dawson Knox this week. Like, I find myself, I've already got him in my starting lineup. As far as I know, Dalton Kincaid didn't practice again today. He tried to check back into the game last week, and he couldn't check back in. So if you can't get going, if you got some sort of contusion and you can't get going again with the adrenaline and everything pumping, once that wears off and the swelling sets in, and now you haven't practiced 2 days in a row, I mean, even if he gets in like a limited practice, I don't expect him to play. Dawson Knox, my co-host on the Two Guys One Pod podcast, made him his start of the week. I was really pissed because I wanted to do it myself. Like, if Dalton Kincaid is out, I am fully comfortable throwing Dawson Knox in my tight end spot this week.
Yeah, there you have it. Now, let's move on to Aaron Jones, who is dealing with a rib or chest injury. Looking like he's going to play this week in a really good matchup. Biggs, if Aaron Jones goes, he's a must start, right?
Yeah, especially in this matchup.
Yeah, agreed. Now, T. Higgins, he finally returned to practice this week, and it's looking like a strong implication that he probably might play this week. What do you think, Chev? Is this a situation that we're going to have to monitor? Are you plugging T. Higgins in right away?
So it's wheels up. It's wheels up for T. Higgins for me. I actually stumbled upon this video of some sicko Bengals fan that has like a 90% accuracy rate based on how T. Higgins runs up this hill that takes him to practice. And he sprinted up the hill. So T. Higgins is in this week.
Science, everybody.
Science. Listen.
Okay.
I'm taking T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle and Trevor Lawrence, and I'm tying them up with a big rope, and I'm sticking them on the boat that Doug Peterson is on and shoving it off into the nethers.
No, man. No. You do that with Jalen Waddle. You do that with Doug Peterson.
I'm so tired of dealing with those guys.
Well, we're going to have to deal with it some more here because Trevor Lawrence, still not sure. They haven't ruled him out yet, but it's not looking good. I don't think Trevor Lawrence wants to play for Doug Peterson anymore, and I don't think you're going to see him in the Jaguars uniform until Doug Peterson is out. Chev, what do you think on that?
That's actually a really, really good point. Trevor Lawrence is, for all of his disappointment as what was promised to be a generational prospect, Trevor Lawrence is a pretty tough dude, and it seems like, well, I mean, there's just such a wide outcome of like thought processes as far as this goes. Like it could be season-ending surgery, or he might play this week. So honestly, I think he's going to be out this week. Doug Peterson's going to be out after they lose again. Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about Mac Jones ruining all my Brian Thomas Jr. bags, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think that's a great point though. He might not play until Doug Peterson's fired.
Yeah,
and it's bullshit when they do this dance where it's like, I need to open up a roster spot. Let me put him in my IR. Just like go have the surgery, because right now all he's doing is like he's an albatross on the lineup, and I'm sick of it. Well,
speaking of Brian Thomas Jr., then, because they're correlated here. Biggs, you said last week, and it was disappointing because I was agreeing with you here. I think his dip in production was more affected by his injury than the change in quarterback. He's banged up a bit here. Maybe there's brighter days ahead for Brian Thomas Jr., even with Mac Jones. Are you still sticking to that this week, Biggs, moving forward?
I don't know. Schultzy's not here, and he was right on the money about Brian Thomas Jr. last week. In our other show, I had Brian Thomas Jr. as a start. He didn't do anything. 5 points, whatever. So I'm hesitant unless I absolutely have to start him. Like it depends on the alternatives in your lineup. In one of my leagues, I have Nico coming back, and so I'm flipping that. Because I'm comfortable with the rest of my wide receivers, just because it's a wait and see mode at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Now we're gonna move on to the Bills. Now Amari Cooper looks like he's on track to play, but he looked like he was on track last week, so that's still a question mark. Khalil Shakir, a guy that is starting to emerge in that offense. Chev, what do you think his role is when Amari Cooper comes back? Is this a good situation for Khalil Shakir moving forward? It opens things up, right, for him?
Yes, 100%. I'm huge on the slot role in Josh Allen's offense. That's been a thing since the days of Cole Beasley and John Brown, and it's going to continue to be a thing. And Khalil Shakir is one of the most efficient players. Actually, he's the most efficient pass catcher in the entire NFL. Like, he doesn't need a ton of volume. He's got a 94% catch rate after putting up like a 92% catch rate. Like, he caught 39 of 43 targets last year. Like, that role is going to be valuable no matter what. And he creates after the catch. So he can have a 3A dot and still get you 11 fantasy points on a week in, week out basis.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Najee Harris dealing with a mild high ankle sprain. It looks like he will play, but this situation is a tough one. They got a tough matchup this week. What's your outlook on Najee Harris there, Biggs?
I mean, you kind of have to go with the guy that brung you there, as they say about ladies who dance. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Baltimore is a kind of a difficult matchup against running backs. They tend to not allow a lot on the ground, and if Baltimore is scoring, if they're just like ripping through, which going up against Pittsburgh, it's like Pittsburgh's defense is pretty darn good, but we know that Lamar is pretty darn good too. So if they get up to a lead, Russell Wilson's going to be throwing a lot, and there goes your Najee Harris. So I'm wary of him this week.
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens defense is just stout against the run, and if this is going to be a shootout, it might be tough for them to have some run. Anything to add to that, Chev?
No, I don't want to play either running back, but if I was going to play a running back, I would have to play Jaylen Warren. Mm-hmm. I mean, he looks fully healed from the knee injury, and not only does he look fully healed from the knee injury, you got not like if Russell Wilson is going to check it down to someone, I think it's going to be Jaylen Warren. If you have to play an option from this game, I would want to play Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, I think there's more opportunity for those checkdowns, especially in a game that might be a little bit more pass heavy, and they're going to need that for sure. Last injury that I'm going to talk about, because Isaiah Pacheco is now returned to practice, after that 21-day window has now been opened. What do you think his impact is going to be on Kareem Hunt? I see this more as a two-headed monster down the line, as Kareem Hunt maybe taking on some of the pass catching role for the Chiefs when Pacheco comes in as the first down, second down bruising back. Kareem Hunt has got some opportunities in the past where he's, showed himself as a very good pass catcher. And we know in the past, Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon have been able to coexist in that offense. So there could be an opportunity for both these guys to have some upside in that offense. Anything to add to that? Are any of you guys opposed to that, stipulation?
So I find myself with this one, I kind of find myself in a little bit of the opposite corner. I think that the touches behind Pacheco once he returns, like obviously I don't think he's going to play this week. Kareem Hunt has handled the most touches at the running back position in the NFL since they signed him and just threw him in there. I mean, he's an extremely talented back. I think that the division of labor behind Pacheco, once Pacheco returns, will fall to Kareem Hunt, and then Kareem Hunt could spell him on some drives. But I think Pacheco, once he's healthy, once they do activate him and make him like a part of the game day roster, he's going to handle 18, between 16 to 20 touches immediately. And then Kareem Hunt goes to 6 to 8 or whatever's left over. And that might have value if he falls into the end zone. But I think that it's going to be heavy Pacheco, just like it was before he, broke his leg or whatever.
My concern with that is only because the Chiefs are 9-0 right now, that they may not be in a huge rush to be, overworking Pacheco. And when they see their Super Bowl aspirations happen, they see this rental guy, they may want to use him. And he's been very, he's been efficient with his usage, and he's been known, like he was able to coexist alongside Nick Chubb in Cleveland as that pass catching back. So I don't I could just see this evolving, and Pacheco is not going to go in and garner, those type of touches that he was getting before, especially knowing his injury history, and that they have somebody that they could just, grind down without having anything to lose afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. It would depend on what, what they needed to solidify the 1 seed. So yeah, that's an excellent point. And you're a huge Chiefs fan. That's probably got a better pulse on their usage when they've got the buys and everything locked up. That's a totally different situation than they found themselves in last year. They were fighting for seeding. So if they're 10-0, Buffalo's pretty much the only threat, if I'm not mistaken.
At this stage, it is. I mean, and if they win this week, which I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on winning this week, I look at the remaining schedule. They have some tougher matchups now that, at the beginning of the year, when you look at Denver and you look at the Chargers, you weren't looking at those of tougher games, but those are going to turn into some tougher games down the stretch. So they're not gimme games, but I'm going to say that, looking at the rest of the league, especially in the AFC, it's going to be tough for anybody to catch them if they beat the Bills this week.
Yeah, it's next to impossible. I mean, the only other team that could would be potentially Pittsburgh, and they've got to play 6 division games. Like, they're playing 2 division games in 4 days. So I don't see them running the gauntlet as far as that goes and finishing 14-2 or whatever the case may be. So yeah, if they win this week, then yeah, I think they could potentially start thinking about like load management in to borrow an NBA term that I hate very much.
And that hurts our Kelsey shares quite a bit, because I think they're going to start laying off him as well. And until the playoffs, obviously they'll ramp it up down then. But I think this is a very pivotal game for the Chiefs, and we'll have to see what happens.
No offense, I'm hoping that you guys lose so we can get full throttle Chiefs to run through the finish line.
Honestly, they haven't played great football at all this year. They haven't played a complete game. They've had aspects where their offense has looked good. Their defense has been awesome. Their special teams has been awesome, but they hasn't had a game where they've all needed to be there. The Tampa game was the one that, drove them to the limit. And I think that the Buffalo Bills game is going to do the same thing. And it's going to be a tougher one because they're going to be on the road.
Yep. Taylor Swift plays in Buffalo that Saturday.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Enough about the Chiefs. Biggs, I know you're probably ready to move on. I
was just going to say no offense to Chev, but I hope they go 16-0 because I want to see them lose when it really matters.
There it is. All right. Well, on with a team that's losing, and they just fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. I was hoping for more than that. I was hoping for Eberflus to be gone as well. But now they have an interim offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown. Last year, he was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers on the home stretch after Frank Reich, got hacked. So what are you guys' thoughts on the initial move? Obviously, something needed to be done for Caleb Williams, for that Bears offense. Biggs, you've been silent for a bit. I'm going to start with you. Good or bad for this offense? It can't get any worse, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it matters at all. I said on our other show, I don't think the problem with the Bears has been the defense. I don't think the problem with the Bears has been the offensive line. I don't think it's been the wide receivers. And I don't think it was the coaching. I think Caleb Williams not knowing how to process is the problem with the Bears. So it's just going to take some time. Shane Waldron wasn't great, but he was a scapegoat. And until Caleb Williams stops holding on to the ball for too long, until he starts making good throws, until he starts doing the things that are required of a first pick, who knows? We've seen first picks take 5 years to get it. But one thing is for sure, that Caleb Williams doesn't have it now. So I don't think that that the coaching change is going to make much of a difference.
Chev, you look perplexed. I want to hear why you look so stunned on this one.
One, Shane Waldron sucks. He sucks really, really bad.
I acknowledge that.
Yes. Like when you leave and go somewhere else because they don't want you, and one of the players is asked about you and they're like, great guy, great person. We can't really, and that's the extent of what you have to say about him. Like that's not great.
No.
Caleb's holding the ball because nobody, like, this offense doesn't make sense. Like there's a cut up on the platform formerly known as Twitter of Caleb or not Caleb, but DJ Moore's usage year over year and how he's just basically lined up as a static X receiver, and all those touches that were going to him that were getting him running and using his run after catch ability. Like, this offense doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to the point where, like, it functioned at a high level for a few weeks when you use Cole Kmet, who you paid $50 million to, and all of a sudden you just don't use him anymore. Like, nothing makes sense. And then they bring in, the guy who's going to call plays now basically, like, tanked the Carolina Panthers last year. Like, this is going to be bad. I do agree with that part. It's going to be bad no matter what. It might be slightly better if they're going to use their talented pieces, because this is, from a talent perspective, this was the best situation that you could ever ask for for a rookie quarterback. I can't think of a better one, period. But it's been trash because it's square peg round hole in terms of all their usage. So yeah, I don't think it's on Caleb Williams per se. There are some things that I feel like he needs to do better. Like he hasn't thrown a good deep ball. He's not getting rid of the ball on time, but I think that's a function of the way that they were coaching him. So yeah, Bears are going to be trash for the rest of the year. It's probably not going to get better, but I don't throw that at the feet of Caleb Williams. I think I throw that at the feet of Eberflus and, the front office, and more than anybody, Shane Waldron, because he sucks.
They better not be making a play for our Raiders' first overall draft pick.
Oh, you mean the Titans' first overall draft pick?
No, the Raiders' first overall draft pick.
All right. You want a bum fight about it?
We could do a pie challenge.
Let's go. All right, let's move on to our next story, and that's we'll quickly go through this one. Dak Prescott now is not going to finish this year, and he's done. So his injury, both short-term and long-term implications, particularly in Dynasty. What are your thoughts on Dak now? His situation up in the air. He's going to have some time to recover from this injury, but he's not getting any younger. So what's going on here? I'm going to start with you, Chev. What's your overall thoughts on Dak?
Well, Mike McCarthy's going to be gone. He's going to be learning a new system in his age 32 season. He does have the richest quarterback contract on a per year basis in NFL history. So there's no worries there. He's tied to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. They're going to draft a running back and presumably upgrade the offensive line. I think that this could be, a buy window for a guy who's shown you that he can, if they're going to throw the ball 590 times, he's going to finish as a top 5 quarterback. In Dynasty, I would be trying to buy. I actually did buy him in a couple leagues for a pretty reasonable price. And I'm trying to get people to panic and give me CD too, because coming into the season, he was Dynasty wide receiver 1, and now he might be wide receiver 7, 8, just because people panic, and you need to be taking advantage of that, in my opinion. So,
for sure.
Chev doesn't know how much I love Dak Prescott, cousin of my friend Demetrius, and Mike and I have a joint ownership of a team and we drafted Dak at value last year in the startup. And then I also went out and made a trade for Dak in my home league. He disappointed this year. So I pray to the heavens and the gods of football that Jerry Jones does the right thing and makes a trade in the offseason to get rid of Dak. Make some other team pay all that money. Get yourself, the Raiders' first overall draft pick and ship Dak Prescott out of Dallas, because my fantasy shares don't need him with that star on his helmet for another game.
Why? Why would you want that? Why do you want that?
Look at what they've done to my boy.
What? Listen. You gotta just let him die with you gotta let him go down with the ship. Okay. 4 years, $240 million. He's tied to Jerry and the sunlight in his receiver's eyes during some plays, and just whatever senility that Jerry Jones comes up with. We need him in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb. We don't need to separate them and be look at what happened with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Oh, we're elite together. Oh, we're great. Oh, we're great. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so
they're 40.
Yeah. Well, he was 38 and he was the MVP. And then Devontae say, I think I want to leave. And now look at them. They're trying to rekindle that magic. And they're both they're both rubbing icy hot on each other's backs after practice.
But they were magic. Dak may be magic for CD, but neither of them, the Cowboys are not magic for them.
No, the Cowboys aren't magic for anybody. They're poison for everybody. It's the worst, best franchise in all of professional sports, and I stand on that. I grew up a Cowboys fan, but as long as Jerry Jones is on this side of the dirt, I will never cheer for the Cowboys again.
Same.
There you go. All right. Let's move on to stock up, stock down.
Stock up, stock down.
Let's go.
All right. I'm gonna start off, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna give some to Schultzy since he's not here. Stock up is Audric Estime. He had the lion's share of the Broncos carries last week. Javonte Williams, 1 carry, 2 catches on 2 targets. He had 3 total touches in the game. It can't be a matter of Sean Payton trying to galaxy brain and thinking he's going to outsmart the Chiefs. It has to be he's bigger on Estime than he is on Javonte Williams. So Audric Estime's stock is up. The other guy whose stock is up is Davis Allen. He is a tight end for the Rams, if you guys didn't know. Not a lot of people know that, apparently. And we all thought it was Colby Parkinson. He was the guy that got the free agent contract, came into the Rams system. And Davis Allen is getting the targets from Matt Stafford. So his stock is up too. Now, I have more stock up, and this is because it's guys that I just traded for in rebuild or contending mode in my dynasty leagues this last week. Khalil Shakir, I just acquired along with a whole slew of draft picks. Devontae Adams, I went and got him along with Josh Downs and Michael Mayer for a contender. Gave up a couple picks for that. Plus, I gave up Troy Franklin and Jermaine Burton. Their stock is down right now. They were, mid-level rookie wide receivers that had some upside thought behind them, but haven't really been doing much. Maybe Jermaine Burton is going to be a good year 3 breakout candidate. If T. Higgins comes to the Raiders next year, he might have an earlier breakout. But as long as he's on the Bengals, Jamar Chase is going to be the dude. So I moved off of Jermaine Burton. I also traded away Calvin Ridley. I got a draft pick back. That team is kind of in the middle. And then I traded away Breece Hall. And so technically his stock is down, and I hated making the trade, but I got back so much. I got like 6 picks and Khalil Shakir, and it was just like there was no way that I could deny that trade. So that's my stock up and stock down for the week.
Chev, let you hit it up, man.
Well, I didn't know that we could do more than one, so I
cheat all the time.
He does whatever he wants. He does. He goes with his own flow, and that's okay.
So
you just remember the flow of the show? Like his hair. His flow goes wherever it wants, and it could be short, it could be long. So let's hit it up. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, Chev.
No, you're good. My stock up is Kyler Murray. So going into this year, he was a popular pick. His price was as cheap as it was going to be, and I feel like he's going to in the second half of the season. He's been kind of inconsistent because James Conner's been so good from a fan, but like real life quarterback perspective, he's been rock solid. And I think the touchdowns on the back half, like post bye, are coming. Like Trey McBride doesn't have a touchdown. Marvin Harrison has 6, and he's and now he's running the ball at a high clip again, and he looks electrifying. And this offense is just hand and glove fit, even though he can't see over the line of scrimmage. Like my stock up is Kyler Murray. I really, really I tried really, really hard to get him in the offseason, and it just didn't work out in a bunch of spots. But if you're going to try to get Kyler Murray, do it now. Because the price is only going to go up as long as he's healthy.
Well, and if we saw what he did last year after he got back from injury, after the Cardinals bye, that offense was very good. And yes. I'm seeing a lot of that happening now, and I could just see them after the bye really coming on. And I agree with you here, Chev. Biggs, what do you think about that?
Well, Chev and I talked about it on Friday on over on Player Profiler News channel, Player Profiler Today on Friday with Biggs and Chev. You guys should be watching that.
Yeah, you should watch it last night, tomorrow.
But we talked about the Cardinals and how they were gonna like sneak up and win the game on Friday, and that Kyler is good, and I like him.
Yeah.
All right, who's your stock down, Chev?
Tyreek Hill. Yeah. I don't know. Something in the Dolphins offense is completely and utterly broken. And I can't put my finger on it. It hasn't looked right. It really hadn't looked right since in the second half of the season, in 2023. And this has continued into 2024. Like, they don't take deep shots anymore. They're not running Tyreek Hill on like overs or crossers or getting the ball in his hands. I don't know if the NFL's emphasis on taking away that like cheat motion that gets him moving forward kind of at the snap of the ball was that much of a crucial piece of the offense. But he's averaging 56 yards a game this year. And like, yes, he's working through a ligament injury, but like that didn't affect him in week one when he should have had like almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then it's just not, something just isn't there. Like, Devon Achane's the only good piece of this offense right now. And I would love to tell you that like we're due, but like I watched that game on Monday night. It was trash. So like I can't. I've been just calling for the breakout since Tua got back, and like we're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's just not happening. So yeah, Tyreek Hill, he's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. But like I can't in good conscience continue to be like, yes, we're just waiting for it to happen. Because it's not happening.
Yeah, that offense has really made a big shift, and it's going like the targets are going elsewhere. Whereas before it was just dominant between Tyreek and Waddle. Now you're seeing a huge spread out, and the running back Achane getting a ton of targets, but where they didn't target before in years past really was the tight end. And now you're seeing Jonnu Smith come in and he's getting roughly around that 20% target share. So automatically that brings down both Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And I think that has a lot to do with it. They're just targeting those shorter routes. They're not taking as long as deep shots anymore because obviously Tyreek probably can't make that space available like he used to because of injury or whatever, like you mentioned. So yeah, I'm on board with that 100% there, Chev.
Yeah, it sucks because I invested heavily in Tyreek Hill in the offseason. And I mean, you just don't plan on him averaging 56 yards a game. Or
that league I was talking about that Mike and I co-own a team. We drafted Tyreek thinking, don't be afraid in a startup draft. Don't be afraid to win year one. And then look what he's done.
Well, I have I had a couple startups this year that started Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb, and I thought I was golden, and then picking up Achane in the third, like I was just like, oh, this is going well, and it just like it hasn't panned out. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'll get into my stock up, and this was a guy that I was really looking to, this game last week.
Here's a guy.
Was his prove it game to me because I was not ever really sold on Bo Nix, and what he did against the Chiefs last week was really, really impressive. And I'm kind of buying in long term here, and I have him sneaking into the top 12 dynasty quarterbacks right now, and it's hard. Like, I'm not sure you could him out of that right now. No. It'd be hard pressed with his rushing upside, his youth, and what he can do right now. So right now, 20 plus fantasy points, 4 out of the last 6 games. He scored 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs last week. No interceptions as well against a really good, tough Chiefs defense. 5 QB1 finishes in the last 5 games. The receiving touchdown in week 9 adds to his, glamour. I just think this Bo Nix is really turning on the Jets when he needs it the most. He's got that rushing upside too, and he's steadily shown that he could produce and win some games too, which is good for his long-term longevity, that he can actually manage a game and pull out a win when the team needs him, because he actually won that game for the Broncos last week, and it wasn't for a blocked field goal. Bo Nix would be the talk of the town right now. So honestly, the guy's put that team on his shoulders, and he's got a bright future, and I'm sold on him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. To solidify your point, and he's doing it with weapons that like they're only going to get better. Like they don't have the joker role that they usually have for like a tight end that's reserved for a tight end. They don't have the running back, like the pass catching type of running backs that they would want in that offense. Sean Payton is a great system designer, great play caller, and this is an offense that you probably like. The only piece that you can really plan on buying into is right now Bo Nix, and then the weapons are just going to get better. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that, and I hate that because I have been a Bo Nix denier since like
same.
Yeah, I've been a Bo Nix denier, hard Bo Nix denier, and I had to make him my start of the week this week on our show, and I hated that so much. But he's been so good for the last like 6 games, and I can't see it going. I don't see it going sideways. It's not going away.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
Go ahead, Big.
Sean Payton knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that continues on here. Now, my stock down is a guy that I wasn't. I was a little bit skeptical on the move, and I still think his stock could rise up. And that's Diontae Johnson. His stock took a downturn, obviously, with the trade to the Ravens. He's becoming really, really hard to justify getting in your starting lineup. 0 targets in week 9, 1.1 fantasy points in week 10, just 2 targets, 1 catch. Only 22 snaps played, and I get that they're going to integrate him into the offense that was already hitting on all cylinders. But his 71% route participation in weeks in weeks past, his participation will grow, and I think it's going to continually increase. But right now, Diontae Johnson hasn't really done anything to solidify his role in that offense, and he's going to need to really step up his game in order to really carve out something. Rashad Bateman's playing at a high level, and I thought that he would maybe take some snaps away from him. Nelson Aguilar got into the end zone randomly, and we thought that he would take away some snaps from him. So he may just be more of a depth piece at this point in order an injury away, because the Ravens are making a push for the Super Bowl, so that could just be their depth piece. But I'm a little bit optimistic now. This could be a guy that you could maybe get on the real cheap and could carve out a role in injury happening. But when the Ravens need him the most, he might come around. But right now his stock is way down.
Sad, because he's another guy that we were huge on going into the season, and it's just not happening.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I can't see this turning around. Like they can put him on the field more, but what he does and what he's great at also just happens to be what I feel like Rashad Bateman is really good at, and he knows the system, and he's a bigger body. So like, I don't know, like you can't just develop that playground, like improvisation, like finding a field, like finding open spots when Lamar is keeping a play alive. Like that's not something I feel like you can just manufacture in real time. So yeah, I think he won't be a fantasy factor at all this year. And him being on the last year of his deal, I think that him completing that contract and going somewhere else is the best thing for all parties from a dynasty perspective.
I can't wait till the Raiders have T. Higgins, Diontae Johnson, and Jacoby Myers back in the slot. It's going to be so nice.
Yeah, just a group of slot receivers. That's awesome. Love it.
Diontae plays the boundary. T can play the boundary too.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, let's get into Studleys and Dudleys, and then our starts and sits for the week, boys.
All right, I'm going to start with I am the Studley because I just got, and I mentioned this earlier, in my home league, I moved off of Breece Hall to continue my 5-year rebuild. I'm kind of like the Raiders that way. For Breece Hall, I got Khalil Shakir, Tank Bigsby, a 26 first, a 26 second, a 26 third, a 25 third, a 25 fourth, and a 25 fifth. Stud.
How about your calls of the week?
Oh, okay. I can do that. Well, Schultzy last week said start Darnold and sit Herbert. How'd that work out?
You should have done the opposite, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I said start Aaron Jones. He finishes RB19. Boom. And I said sit Travis Etienne. He finishes RB43. Boom. How about you, Chev?
I said start Tyrone Tracy. He went for 103-1. I don't know what that came out to. I think it was top 10, wasn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And then I said sit Joe Mixon, who promptly finished as like RB11. Let's just focus on the part where I was right, though. 25 for 46. It was supposed to work.
Yeah. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. It was supposed to work for me too last week at D-Hop, but it's going to work for me this week with him because I think he's going to have a good game. But I told everybody to start D-Hop last week. Did not do well, but I did tell people the epic call here was to sit Javonte Williams, and he freaking lost his fucking job last week to Estime. So that's a good call.
It sounds like I'm getting an update real quick. Schultzy said to start Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold finished with 6.44 points, QB 21, which is Will Levis territory. And then he said
the Mayo Madman shade on a Thursday night.
And then he said to sit Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert had 19.76 points to finish his QB 8. So sorry, Schultze. Wah, wah.
So that's why he's not here today, because
he's shamed.
Yeah, and it's the survival of the fittest, and he definitely wasn't fit last week. So
Schultze has no starts and sits this week. So next week, his studs and duds, he's not going to be on the hook for anything. Hold
on. I'll copy and paste it though, so he could relive his.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. All right. Hey, go ahead.
All right. My start of the week is going to be one Jonnu Smith. We know Mike Gesicki's athletic talent level, and he just never really found a spot in that Dolphins offense. They never really did anything. So going into the season, I thought that Jonnu Smith might have, a little bit of trouble as well. But over the last few weeks, beginning with week 5, he's had 8, 7, 6, and 6 and 4 targets. So they're utilizing him. Tua has been throwing him the ball, and if you need a tight end to throw into your lineup, the Miami Dolphins are playing the Las Vegas Raiders this week. They're a pretty good defense to be going against if you're a tight end. In fact, they allow where'd it go? The 6th or 7th most fantasy points to tight ends, somewhere in the 8.3 mark. So that 8.3, then you throw in a touchdown. There's your 15 points right there from your tight end spot with Jonnu Smith. My sit, I'm going to bring that back up. And it's Jalen Waddle. Like I said, the Dolphins are playing the Raiders. The Raiders have been very stingy against wide receivers this year. Waddle hasn't looked as good as people thought he was going to be. He's disappointed a lot of players, or a lot of fantasy owners that invested him, because his ADP was wide receiver 2, and he hasn't been showing it. The Raiders are 5th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers at a stingy 15.4. That's only a couple of points worse than the leaders, the Tennessee Titans, at 13.6. DeCameron Richardson came out and had a really good game in his debut, and Jack Jones and Nate Hobbs and Jacorian Bennett, who took a huge leap forward this year from his rookie season last year, they've been holding it down. And so I have started hesitating starting players against the Raiders defensive backs, but so no Waddle. But they do leave the middle of the field open for those tight ends. So Jalen Waddle is my sit.
All right, Chev, let's hear what you got to say today.
My start of the week is Josh Jacobs. And the reason that is because the Bears are now entering into full on, like, the ship's on fire. Let's see how low we can go territory.
We're having a fire.
Sail.
Shout out Arrested Development.
The Bears offense, we touched on that before. The Bears offense is just in a spot where they can't possess the ball for any length of time. And I think that this turns into a game where the Packers are going to, coming off a bye, they're going to pass early to lead and then run to win. We could be looking at like a 35, 36 minute time of possession advantage. And if that's the case, I fully expect Josh Jacobs, who's having one of the most efficient seasons of his career. He hadn't had the touchdowns. He gets 1 or 2 touchdowns. He has 20 carries, 16 to 20 carries. And, he finishes as a, RB7, RB8. And that's not even including what he could get in the passing game. He did get his first receiving touchdown of his career a few weeks ago against Houston. So, he's going to get typical bell cow usage. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson don't really worry me, even though, they're going to steal some annoying carries throughout the game. I love Josh Jacobs this week, and I feel like he's absolutely going to smash.
Good call. Real quickly, hot off the presses, this is amazing. Via Cooter Doodle on Twitter, somebody who is in Mike's SFB 14 division that he's totally destroying. Quote, I don't think there's a single urologist who has seen more sacks than Caleb Williams did in week 10.
That was so good. She had a couple of good ones. Way more. It was she had something like, if you've had blah 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 with this many men in the last month, you've seen more sacks than Caleb Williams. There were some good ones. I can't remember the quote, but she's on fire.
Shout out Cooter Doodle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who's your sit this week there, Chev?
It's Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Kirk Cousins. So Darnell Mooney popped up on the injury report today with an Achilles injury. It says preventative, but we hate seeing injuries pop up on a Thursday during the week. And 2, this is a terrible matchup in and of itself. And Kirk Cousins has been just a literal punching bag out there for the last couple of weeks. He's not sensing pressure. He made the New Orleans Saints look like, the Saxonville Jaguars, as my buddy Biggs likes to say. Looked like Saxonville from 2017. I mean, he was just out there getting just pulverized. And I think that's going to continue this week. Drake London, even though he's been lining up in the slot quite a bit, is going to see quite a bit of Patrick Surtain. And if Darnell Mooney's limited at all, you're talking Kyle Pitts, Drake London against Patrick Surtain, and Ray McLeod.
Ray McLeod.
And I don't love that for him this week. Bijan should be fine, but I do not want any parts of Kirk Cousins this week.
You don't want any of his cousins this week?
I don't want Kirk. I don't want his chains. I don't want his cousins. I don't want anything to do with Kirk Cousins this week.
Yeah, I agree with you there 100%. Chev, I have him on a sit on our one of our other shows. So absolutely, man, Kirk Cousins is not in my lineup. So my start of the week here, folks, and it's kind of going with one of Chev's starts of the week from one of his other shows, and they kind of correlate each other. I'm going with Courtland Sutton this week. I think he's coming off another big game, and he's just hitting on all strides. 17 plus fantasy points in each of his last 3 games, 10 plus targets per game in those last 3. He's hitting on all cylinders. The Falcons allow the 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. Sutton has 2 consecutive 100-yard games, proving he can consistently deliver big. When Sutton is seeing significant target share and facing bad defenses, he is a wideout I want to start. So I'm looking for another strong week from Courtland Sutton. He's a lock in my fantasy lineup, and in places where I have him, He's been such a great addition, and he's helped me win a lot of weeks alone because of a great flex position. And he's a top 24 wide receiver week in and week out. And now he's performing as a top 15. So love Cortland Sutton again this week.
Boo.
I know it's hard to start Broncos, and he was probably the most obvious one that people just avoided because we weren't sure what Bo Nix would do. And it's the very little shares I do have of Cortland Sutton, he's definitely helping me quite a bit right now, and I should have been all over him.
Yeah. I hate it for me, especially. I was an OG court. Like, I hit the breakout way back in 2019, and then like in a bunch of dynasty leagues, I took him in startups, and it just was really disappointed in 2022. And it started to kind of come around, and I was like, here's my window to sell. And I sold him in 2023, and now I am just infinitely regretting it.
Yeah. All right. So kind of like a correlation here. We kind of just pick each other's show sheets and go off of it. So my sit of the week is James Cook, and Biggs had him on one of our other shows. And the reason behind it is they're facing the Chiefs defense, who are the best against the run. And I think it's going to be tough sledding for James Cook this week. The Chiefs have allowed the fewest rushing yards to opposing running backs. They've surrendered the fewest fantasy points to running backs at all this season, and no running back has scored more than one rushing touchdown against the Chiefs. So Cook is going to have to rely on a touchdown to be fantasy relevant, in my opinion, and he might get in, but I'm not going to bank on it. So that's why I'm going to leave him on the bench, or I'm going to try and leave him on the bench if I can, but I'm going to definitely temper my expectations against the Chiefs defense, and I think he's going to be stuck in the kitchen and unable to perform his duties as a cook.
Yeah, the Chiefs have allowed a total of 473 rushing yards over 9 games. That's just over 50 yards a game. 3 touchdowns total on the ground, and 0 receiving to running backs. So it's not likely that James Cook is going to see the different color of the end zone grass. And yeah,
he'll need to break out a big play. You know what I mean? Because they tend to use Ray Davis a little bit more in the red zone too. And Josh Allen has that upside as well. So like there's very limited upside for James Cook with such a stout defense.
Yeah. The only thing he has going for him is his receiving ability. And the Chiefs are really good at stopping receiving backs too. So
yep.
It's going to be
not a lot of daylight.
Yeah. Wow. Almost an hour in, boys. Finish this show.
That's how we do it.
Smooth as silk. Chev, great addition to the Pulse, man. Keep coming back. You're always welcome, man. We got you on our overlay now, so you're prime time, buddy. You're here with us for good. So yeah, man. Tell everybody maybe where to find some of your other stuff, so that, now that you're part of the show, they can maybe find some of your stuff elsewhere as well.
Yeah, we're at I co-host 2 Guys 1 Pod FF. You can find that on X, Twitter, or Instagram, TikTok, all that. I'm at Chev90 on X. Yeah, just check that out. I'm also on the Player Profiler today, tomorrow, tonight. With Biggs. We'll be on Fridays around 6:00, or sometimes on Saturdays. Just
you never know.
Yeah. Don't know. Might feel froggy. I don't know. Might go to Home Depot. Don't know if we'll have enough time. Maybe Bed Bath & Beyond. No. But yeah, you can find me there. Check us out. Like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. This is a blast. I could talk fantasy all day long. So yeah.
You need to get on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network app. I will send you a link once we're done here. Also, we are migrating over to Blue Sky and Fantasy Sports Advice Network. People are leaving Twitter in droves and heading over to Blue Sky. So you can find me at Big Boned FFB on Blue Sky, also on Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and Twitter at Big Boned FFB, and watch all my shows. I've got 5 a week with Fantasy Forecast on Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and I've got 2 a week with Player Profiler, and I've got one a week plus special editions over on right here on the Undroppables and on Fantasy Football Plus. I've got this one. So yeah, there's if you can't get enough of me,
you can find them.
You can find me.
You can find me also on Blue Sky at FF Canuck 99. It's almost a mirror of my X page. So let's go with that. And I got a couple projects on the go too. The Fantasy Football Funhouse with my son Mason on Saturday mornings on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. It's a fun show. And Biggs and I always, we're hanging out. You can find me on Player Profiler as well. Monday nights on the Primetime Show on the news desk. And then on the main channel of Biggs on Thursday Night Tailgate, where we hit it up every week. So from all of us on the Undroppables Network, on the Fantasy Football Plus Network, what do we say, Biggs?
We hope you win.
We hope you
win.
We
hope you win.
Chev?
Because that means we're winning too, because you're following our advice.
We got to stay on brand here. And I would like to leave everybody with this. Drake London never, George Pickens forever.
We hope you win.
We also hope you win.